So it's coming full circle around the beginning of the jelly juice world and when everything went to shit. Well, when everything went crazy, when the world hated me for a moment, when they tried to accuse me of somebody's death who was in hospice and all that stuff. And then the research and also the defense around what salt is, the need for salt, but how much is too much, how much is too little. And of course, that was an ongoing debate that everybody picked apart the last 7 years. So I would say that a lot of the opposing forces out there helped me figure out the answer to this perceived problem of overgrowth and not mischaracterizing elements and electrolytes and symptoms and food. And then, of course, getting through the fear porn and all of the activism against air, food, and water and all of that and the distraction. So yesterday was a pretty aggressive day because the frequencies changed, climate change, and it caused accelerated growth. I even felt the ramped up energy. I was amped up like you wouldn't believe. And then, of course, the system decided that it was good to gaslight me during that same time. I felt the frequency change, and then miraculously, 2 trolls came through and said 2 things that were from 2 different worlds. One said I looked horrible, and the other one said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And that was interesting how they came from very distinctive worlds that I've dealt with the last 7 years of people commenting on my appearance or using their religion as a way to gaslight me. And so that happened, and then I realized that you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. What do you mean? Well, we have been manipulated on so many levels, and it needs to happen because either the system doesn't get the best out of you or they get the worst out of you and figure out that you have nefarious intentions and they'll throw you in jail if you give them a reason to. And so the system has to utilize resources that they have fostered for so many years. I mean, that's America, the last greatest experiment. Everyone that comes to America is under a type of surveillance. Sometimes people fall through the cracks and they end up in jail or dead or become a prostitute or human trafficked. Other people end up working for the government, or they end up in academics developing protocols or whatever. They end up working for the system in some manner in the service industry, hospitality industry, or, they were programmed to go out there and entertain people. So yeah, the system will gaslight you, and you can see it in the conspiracy world. You can see people who are trying to face some of their past, and they're trying to get whatever their perceived problem is out there and think that they need to go and wake up the masses. And then there's trolls that scare them, that psychologically do psyops on them and stalk them. And then a person either pushes past it and does what it does, and you hope they don't make any, they don't break any laws, or they shut up because they don't feel like dealing with opposing forces. And so if you truly have something that's amazing, don't let anything get in your way. Let the negative energy be converted into positive energy without it being cancerous. Okay? And so I know what I have, and I know I have to characterize things in the proper way. I mean, it's a little diplomacy. It is going through the files of my mind, trying to figure out there's always another story to things. But, the whole Dr. Phil show and the beginning of the J world was such a trauma because of everything I had to deal with that for many years, yes, I was very angry at how the Dr. Phil show ended because I was under the impression that I would be getting the word out to help the masses, not be challenged so hard like I was. But anytime you go on a show that you're not controlling, you have no idea the intentions of that show. And so when you're in it and it's not what you thought it was, then you have to think on your feet. Then you have to be in major defense mode. And that's exactly what I was. And it was a type of trauma, but I put myself in that position. I put myself in an unknown. Okay, I can't really be mad, but I was for many years. And of course, all the people that were using that as a way to gaslight me and send me off into a tailspin. Wow, holy shit. And so yesterday was kind of like that situation. There was a lot of energy. My arms were hurting. So I knew energy was coming from the phone and wherever else. And my wrists were hurting. My arms were hurting. And of course, hives were coming up. And I was amped up. And then 2 trolls came through. And who knows where they came from. That decided to send me off in the same tailspin yet again. Because every time that Dr. Phil show airs, there's always some kind of trolls. But I don't even know if it aired. I just think that, well, see, I have a theory that I can't prove. You can never prove anything, but you can have a theory that the system does gaslight people to get them to perform in a way that they were trained in. And either you get the best out of them or you get the worst out of them or you get the truth out of them. And also people are like, oh, we got to go and organize and go take down, and that's probably how January 6th was figured out, was they infiltrated the chatter, got people all gaslit, figured out the game plan, and then you saw what happened. So anyways, so yesterday was interesting that the system decided to test me yet again to see if I had the same issue with Dr. Phil or made an assumption about what was going on. Because I make assumptions all the time based upon the reality that I live at the time. And all of us do. We make assumptions about people, place, and things. We have no idea who it is we're dealing with. So that was interesting. I made that assumption that it was someone from the Dr. Phil world. And I still don't know who these people are. But anyways, and then I figured out, okay, after I released those demons of just not understanding religious people who are so judgmental. And even though that may be an actual organic person that was saying, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus or whatever. And the other person said, oh, you look horrible. What happened to you or some shit, I mean, I block them and delete them, but then I still don't understand how, God-loving, God-fearing people can go and hunt people and want to destroy them. And that's not even just the Jesus people or super, super Christian people. That's also the some of the Hebrews out there. That's also some of the Muslim religion people out there. That's also some of the atheists out there. The energy healing people. That's also who are anti-America. I mean, extremism does not discriminate. That's the irony, is that extremism does not discriminate. When you think about extremists, they discriminate. But extremism does not discriminate. It's found in everything. And so, I was so amped up, but I still had shit to say. And then so when I got that out about those who rebuke people in the name of Jesus and whatever, and then those who say I look horrible, okay, whatever. And then I was thinking, Dr. Phil, he put a mirror up. When I looked at all of my epiphanies and the constant evolution from the negative and the positive energy, going on that show was actually a really good thing, because it was a suffering that I was used to, but it saved my life, because I figured out that you needed food. You couldn't use even the medical system or the holistic system if you wanted to prolong your life potentially indefinitely. You had to get away from those industries, even though I knew that later on. I knew that with the holistic world, but I had to go back and forth with some of the reasons why they have surgeries and antibiotics and all that, because in a slower frequency environment, you could play that game of being cured because you had a longer time in between each diagnoses and growing and growth. Okay, I mean, they still had cancer back in the 1950s, but it was slower growing. They still had remedies, but in a slower frequency environment, it wasn't growing as fast. Okay, so you can get away with doing the protocols that was necessary in the medical holistic system. But now you can't get away with that. I mean, you can try, but you'll cause then another situation. Oh, my husband, will you be my Valentine for the 13th year? Jillian Epperly, I love you. Oh, that's my husband. Oh my God. I love my husband. Aw. Abso-frickin-lutely. Absolutely love you, hubby, and thank you for being mine. Aw. Oh, he's such a good boy. Wow. That's nice. He doesn't do that very often, but when he does, it's nice. It's nice. It's very nice. Okay. He doesn't say much on Facebook, but when he does say things, you gotta listen. All right, anyways. So yeah, so the whole Dr. Phil show was putting a flashlight on what causes people to go on that show. And it could be mental illness, it could be so many different things. But when you're forced to, when you're in a death culture and you're forced to find protocols, you're forced to look for something to give you relief because you've been suffering for fucking years. Yeah, put a fucking flashlight on that. And that's what we did. That's what he did. That's what I did. And you had opposing forces. You had 3 opposing forces. 3 on the other side, 3 on this side. And it was the battle. It was a discussion. And he brought in, his holistic person, say, oh yeah, buy my holistic shit. But we all were selling the same thing. We're all trying to remedy disease, though they had the upper hand because they understood what disease was and why you couldn't make claims. But even though I had an idea about longevity and immortality, but there were still things that I needed to explore and glean out. But that was just the beginning. That was the evolution. That's what kicked off was the discussion. Okay, and that discussion was extremely energetic the last 7 years, and it needs to be, because energy produces innovation. It produces solutions. Not everyone's going to take on the solutions, but produces solutions that must be supported with food, all food, release, rest, a change in the way you do things. And so I've proven the last 7 years that with all that energy, negative and positive, and supporting that energy with all food, and not being afraid of air, food, and water. And I had to release, and I had to rest. Then I've made it. I did exactly what I was set out to do. Doesn't mean that everybody else can do it. Doesn't mean that everybody can do what I've been doing. Because some people are too far gone. Some people do not have the ability to eat all the food and rest and release. But some people do, and I can't sacrifice those who can do it because there are others that can't do it. So I have to still speak even in the face of opposition of those who know they can't do this and they want to stop people from doing what they can't do. And that's what you're up against in this society. When people think or know they can't do something, they will stop others from doing it because misery likes company. They're not generous enough to be like, yeah, I know I can't do it, but if you can, Godspeed, more power to you. Do you see anyone out there that knows they can't do something but will still promote it for somebody else? No, that's not how people work. People project what they can or cannot do out into the world. They assume people can't do it because they can't do it, or they assume people can do it because they can do it. And that's me. And so when you have 2 opposing forces, one that says they can do it, one says that they can't do it, then everything will eventually come out in the wash. But that show needed to happen. It really needed to happen. And so now I could say thank you, Dr. Phil, and thank you for for catalyzing that potential. It didn't mean that I was going to fulfill that potential, but that was just the beginning. Well, why did I go on that show? What was I trying to accomplish? Well, when I was thinking about that, when I was sitting in my other house, going like, okay, I got a call from the producer. They want you to come on, da, da, da. And I'm just like, I was sitting and like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be a famous person. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to make a lot of money and sell all these books. And the world's going to love me. And oh my God, I'm sitting in that, just like that whole excitement. Like, oh, I made it. Didn't realize what exactly I was walking into. But that moment in time, like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for my moderators so they can get something from it. I was doing it for, yes, not only myself, but also for my moderators. Because they were getting flack and they were getting this, and I wanted to give them something, you know, and whatever. And so anyway, so that's why I did it. And then I realized, yeah, after even later on, when people were trying to make money off the situation, trying to make a business out of the momentum that we were taking on, yeah, you can't be greedy in something like this. You start cheapening something like this and turn it into a commercial project where it's hidden behind a paywall, and here's a t-shirt and swag and all. Oh God, it then becomes a joke. It becomes a fucking joke. And so, yeah, so I fell into all that, you know, turn it into trying to turn it into a business, you know, making money off the suffering of people, but then making claims I could take away your suffering. But you can't do that. That's inauthentic. And then I had to evolve. I absolutely had to evolve and even test out theories, even go from pink salt to white salt. Even, you know, when people were opposing that, people were next to me like, why would you change it? You know? And then finally, from having so many people around me and a 60,000 person group and so many people around me and all that, then down to me being on my own with no group, a new Facebook page, a business page you can't really find unless you know that it's there because you found it through my other pages. And I'm doing great. I'm doing fucking great. I saved myself. My husband sent me a Valentine on Facebook, which he hardly ever does. Fuck, I won. I fucking won. And I don't have to be rich. I live modestly. I'm humble. You know, I figured out that you really can't react to strangers because you have no idea who people are. You really can't listen to strangers because you don't know who people are. And you see that all over Facebook. You know, if you don't know what you're doing and you have kids, you don't know what you're doing, and you have to go see a pediatrician, then the outcome is going to be whatever the outcome is because you have no idea what the hell you're doing. And when people do things blindly and without thinking because everyone else is doing it because it's traditional, the outcome is not going to be in their favor. You think, like when I was trying to play the stock market and invest in some kind of stock called Inovio, because that was when all the vaccines were coming out, I figured, okay, I'll make a quick buck. It's becoming greedy. It's greedy. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I took on the account, you know, and put some money in there, and I was looked good on paper for about a week, and every single time the stock would go up, someone would short it and go right back down again. I'd be like, what the hell? Oh, someone's making money off this. Okay, I get it. Well, I took my money out, and I left the account, and I'm done with E-Trade. And I come back later, and I see that I owe $38. I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, because there's a stock split, there's a reorg, and in my contract that I really didn't read very closely, it said, well, if there's a stock split and a reorg, it's going to cost you $38 as part of your contract. So E-Trade paid it, and then I owed E-Trade. And so I'm like, okay, I figured that out. And I'm like, okay, I'm closing this account. So I did close the account, paid it off. I closed the account and said, okay, I'm not doing this again. So, you know, when you're greedy or you're blindly following other people and you do things because what other people say or do or what you think is the right way, or you're greedy and you get into something that's maybe over your head, maybe I could have owed like millions of dollars or something. No, it was only $38, but still, if you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you're going to be owing somebody, and or the outcome is not going to be in your favor. When you blindly go into something because everyone else is doing it, then you have to go see a professional or question, why did it happen this way? Why did it happen that way? And you don't want to be left surprised like that. Okay? And so why would you want to go and make money off of strangers or listen to strangers when it comes to your health? I mean, listening to strangers when it comes to observations of indicators of potential danger and giving both sides to everything. Don't just say, here's danger, and then just suffer with it. Well, here's a potential way out if you can do it. Not everybody can. Whenever I say there's potential danger in Florida, right? And if people had a chance to move, and if they didn't have, well, if people have insurance on their house, and they could find a way to take the money and run if there is a catastrophic situation that they actually could survive. So give people a strategy to get out when you say there's danger. But just to say there's danger and just leave people sitting in danger without trying to give some kind of strategic way out, then you're just fear porn. Okay? So, yeah. Anyway, so that's my thing, is I just put out observations. I say, here's danger. Here's the potential strategy. So you can strategize your way out financially, insurance-wise, or even microbially. And here's all the things that must happen as far as factors to support the process of taking on and releasing and all that. Doesn't mean everybody can do it, but it's being authentic to give people some kind of options and they can figure out how to save themselves, because you can't do it for them. You really can't. So, yeah. So listening to strangers about your body, mind, and spirit, about anything, about you have to figure out what exactly you listening to and why, and how are you going to apply the information that you've processed through your mind. And so, we all want to help people, and we're all strangers, but again, at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to have to deal with the pain and suffering. And should people hear what happens if they don't figure out how to tame the life in their body? Well, absolutely. I mean, I told you a couple years ago what my secret was. That I did say in the beginning about pulling out the crap. Because I'm an O positive, I'm taking on growth astronomically. I get bigger and bigger and bigger, and I get bloated when the frequencies become so aggressive. And so I don't have what Rh negatives have, or even the A and B blood types have, which is that antigen, that energy, right? That causes cells to do what they do and causes then rapid connectivity. So I have to actually manually pull out the excessive microbes. And so anyway, so I gave people that secret, but doesn't mean that, I don't know where I was going with that. Fuck. I'm just like, oh my gosh. Give me a second. So I give my secrets, but again, people will do what they do. But not everybody can pull out. That's right. Not everybody can pull out the crap. Maybe they can, but maybe they don't want to. Maybe they're not ready to condition their immune system down there to release demons, because that would require then a lifestyle change. And if they're right in the middle of their career and they're the only breadwinner, they can't afford to go through that process of releasing demons the way that is necessary, because it would mean certain things that might happen. As soon as you activate your immune system, oh my gosh. And you've seen it happen out there with those in the news, in the news feeds. Spontaneous shitting, spontaneous blood vessels bursting, spontaneous everything. It's not really spontaneous. There is a catalyst, but you can't really pinpoint what the catalyst is. So you say spontaneous, so we don't make assumptions what the catalyst is. Something caused it, but we don't know what it was. Well, I could tell you that the environment is so aggressive that the pressure, because I could hear pressure go up and down in my ears the last couple of days, and then I experienced a rapid growth. So imagine if I had weaker blood vessels up in the sky, or, all that, and then have a spontaneous bloody nose, spontaneous diarrhea, right? So anyways, yeah, so I've listening to strangers, you're gonna have to figure out how you're gonna apply these things. And no matter what, a doctor's a stranger, someone on Facebook's a stranger, your friends and family are strangers. They don't know what it is you deal with. They don't even know anything. They don't know a damn thing. They don't know a damn thing. Gosh, my husband's so cool. I love my husband. All right. So everyone is a stranger. Dr. Phil, tolerance to diversity. Virus is overgrowth. Okay, so I'm going to just go from the top to the bottom, because now we're wrapping everything up from the beginning of Dr. Phil days, when we talked about candida, weaponized fungus, mainstreaming mutancy. But that was implying that somebody weaponized a fungus to cause then people to have issues. And that was a very broad assumption that was incorrect back then. But now, as I'm watching some of the YouTube influencers that are going over the news, and even CDC saying, okay, we have an aggressive virus called Candida auris that can live up to 2 weeks on surfaces, and it's passed around through obviously touching, and it's in the environment. It's in the hospitals, it's in the nursing homes, it's on surfaces, it's in airplanes, it's in hotel rooms, it's in restaurants, truck stops, okay. And then I'm also reading in the Diet Suddenly groups that a girl, she keeps getting sick when she's at the nursing home. And someone's asking for a solution for all of her sicknesses, because every single time she comes home, she gets sick. Well, a smart person would just quit that job if you're constantly getting sick. A smart person is not going to do that. They're going to still keep going to their job as they keep getting sick. But Candida can be extremely influential in a highly aggressive, influential environment. Now, I know I had Candida before I did the J World. I remember getting so many yeast infections a long time ago when I was 19, and then they were under wraps. It manifested into something else. Maybe a mycoplasma, I don't know. But I had a lot of yeast infections as a 19 and 20-year-old, and then they disappeared. Okay? But when I woke up the beast with the J juice, and so I woke up the yeast infections, and then I tried to use apple cider vinegar, and I was telling you, it's about like 10,000 knives were stabbing me down there. My husband's like, what the hell? Oh yeah, I was like torturing myself in the beginning of the J World. I wake up the beast, then try to put it to sleep. Wake up the beast, try to put it... Oh God. So it was a lot of trial and error in the beginning of the J World, okay? A lot of trial and error. Then we decided to use the juice. You can't really cure stuff in you. You can give yourself some relief, and that would give you a little bit of stay of execution, but you really couldn't live on the J juice because it's very, it's temporary, and then you're trapping the little beasts inside that are going to eventually grow and metastasize later on. So you're just delaying the inevitable using the J juice. But as soon as you take an antifungal, anti-parasitic, antibacterial, antimicrobial, antibiotic, oncology, or cure yourself, you just made it harder for your system to release the overgrowth. Because that's what viruses are. I just figured that out. Virus can be anything that's out of control. That's why people have an issue thinking that the virus doesn't exist. Of course it exists. But it's all relative to what is out of control in your body, and that's different for everybody. See, so COVID-19 is like a universal umbrella speaking to that there is some kind of infection, and it could be something parasitic, it could be something bacterial, it could be something microbial. It's all kind of the same shit, but they compartmentalize everything. It could be something biotic, it could be something, whatever, protozoan, okay? But it's all microbes. It's Hydra, tardigrades, cells with walls and cells without walls, okay? That's what a virus is. That's what COVID-19 is. It's a new frequency in the environment causing rapid growth and It's different for everybody. All right, so when you are taking something that's anti-parasitic, antifungal, antibacterial, anti-whatever, you just made a new offspring that will cause it to eventually wreak havoc on you later on when it starts to mature and grow up. And so you just made it harder for your system to release overgrowth. You develop yet another monster the body must find a way to tame. Eventually the body gives out. It is outnumbered. Then it is system shut down. Game over. So that's why I was pretty aggressive against the holistic people after I figured this out. After we were playing with all the different holistic things, we were torturing ourselves by bringing up disease and then trying to put it back to sleep again with everything, because we were using the J juice, but everyone was like, oh, here, I recommend vitamin D oil. Ooh, I recommend this and this spray and that thing and na. And so I was attracting so many holistic people, and it was insane. And then finally, later on down the road, I started weeding them out. Started weeding out the energy healing people. I started weeding out all the people that were selling remedies and the supplements and all of that. I started weeding out those who were using all the different oils and all that. I mean, it was just, finally I figured out how to weed out all of that because they were compounding the problem. But in the old world, when it was slower frequency, it was fine. You didn't see too much rapid growth from those situations. And if you did, you really couldn't pinpoint where it came from because the frequencies were so slow that it allowed slow growth. So then you never could really pinpoint where it all originated from. So then it was just, oh, she has cancer. Oh, she had a heart attack. Oh, she had this. And you're like, okay. And everyone was taking their supplements and everyone's doing their oncology and no one really was the wiser. And then you're seeing a ramp up, an uptick from 2001 with the conspiracy world. And then, of course, I'm sure even the anti-V people were prolific even back in the 1960s, but then it started reigniting itself. And so anyways, and so you just made it harder for your system to release overgrowth, okay? So that's why then I released all those people and realized that you needed food. And then I was pulling out crap anyways way before even the J word. I mean, yeah. No, when I was drinking pickle juice. When I made the J juice from pickle juice and then switched over to cabbage, and then that poor lady that I said, oh, here, I got the recipe from here. And remember, I wanted to give my sources of where that recipe came from, but I modified it, and instead of a teaspoon or half a teaspoon, I said a tablespoon. And boy, did she get backlash. Oh, that poor lady. Oh gosh. So when I was drinking the pickle juice, and I started getting constipated because that's what was going on. I was curing the shit in my body and I was pulling it out. But I was getting relief too at the same time and taking all my supplements too at the same time until I weeded all that out. Okay? So I'll go back to memories. I'm like, oh my gosh, remember this, remember that? Oh, this is so amazing. Sorry, so you just made it harder for your system to release overgrowth. You developed yet another monster in the body you must find a way to tame. Eventually the body gives out. It is outnumbered. Then it is system shut down. Game over. So the traditional ways of managing disease will be people's undoing. Traditional anything is basically a death sentence for most people in so many areas of the world. Choose your poison, and people are. What's my poison? Okay, what's my poison? Well, finding a way to navigate a very dangerous world. Knowing what I know, and you know how people are, and we've heard stuff, people just going off half-cocked or fully cocked, and then people get caught in the crossfire. I still have to be relatively normal. Shop, go to places. I know what's out there. I know what I must deal with. I'm not immune to microbes. So when you have this Candida auris all over the place and people pick it up and they don't know they're picking it up and then people catch it or whatever, there's nothing you can do except deal with the growth and release. Okay? So what people fail to realize is so much growth can actually cause a decline if you're not replacing energy the growth is using to grow with. So that's the whole Georgia Guidestones. Be not a cancer on this earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. Because when you have so much growth on one end, it's using up all the resources on this end. And then this end over here is like your heart and your lungs and the main parts of you. And over here, it's like it's eating the heart and the lungs and the main parts of you. And then you are going to be destroyed. And so much negative on this side, so much lack of growth will cause a decline. Either way, Too much growth or not enough growth is causes decline. So you have to balance out both sides of the equation. Okay, that's algebra. That's algebra. And so people fail to realize that so much growth is actually can cause a decline if you do not replace the energy growth is using to grow with. In other words, you need money to make money. You can't make something out of nothing. You can't. Once you exhaust all resources in your body, mind, and spirit, it's died suddenly. That's why it's a constant day by day going through the process of feeding demons and overgrowth and then releasing them. But what do people do when they feel pain and suffering? They stop eating the food that may have caused the pain and suffering. They go and remedy it away. They stop the body from releasing. And so you need all food in the body, in the food supply. Indicators of the body breaking down are broken bones, constant disease that's being remedied away. Then you look at these kids who are gluten intolerant, sugar intolerant, salt intolerant, meat intolerant, milk intolerant. They're eating quinoa and celery and water. These poor kids are so deficient. And there's growth in their body that's munching away at their infrastructure, breaking down their bones, breaking down their tendons. Are they eating enough meat, milk, fish, and eggs, and fruits and vegetables, and milk and cheese to replace the energy they lost with exposure and with their predisposed issues and with the environment that they're in? I doubt it. How much can you feed a kid so they can replace the energy lost during climate change and whatever? So then you got to watch how that shit works. It sucks. That's why these kids are not surviving young adulthood, because they couldn't replace the energy that was used during their growth process, their growth spurt. And imagine growth spurts. When you have a growth spurt and the growth is using up more resources than the body can actually produce and sustain, right? Like, just like when, like I made that example, and I'll read that in a minute, of so much growth, like you saw those mushrooms that grew really fast in a terrarium that was time-lapse, whatever, photography. But when you have a baby, okay, and it's supposed to go through 9 months of gestation, but in the movies you see like the alien babies that grow faster than 9 months. So you have a baby that is now in its third trimester, the last month in the first trimester of the first month in the first trimester. So now you have such rapid growth that the mother is mangled, the organs are mangled from the mother, and then she dies because that fast growth, that baby, that's what goes on in this environment. Is we have so much fast growth, people's insides are getting mangled and breaking down. No different than the alien in the belly that grows faster than the average gestation. That's what they were showing you in Prometheus. Was that lady that was in that ship on that alien planet, and she was inseminated by an alien, and she felt it move, she felt the pregnancy, but it was fast moving. She had to go and get that machine to take out that alien baby because it would destroy her. That's what all these alien shows are trying to tell you, that during climate change, you're going to have such fast-moving growth that people are dying suddenly from it. They're being mangled from it because you have chosen not to release. You've taken all the remedies and done all the surgeries and also all the diets, so you don't give your immune system any kind of arsenal to release the demons. People are sitting ducks, and they're having these aliens growing so fast in their body, it mangles them as it grows that fast. People die suddenly. And so anyway, once you exhaust all resources in your body, mind, and spirit, it's died suddenly. That's why it's a constant day by day going through the process of feeding demons and overgrowth and releasing. And you need all food in the food supply. Indicators of the body breaking down are broken bones and constant disease that's being remedied away. And I am O positive. And since I am O positive, I'm an O positive. I am continuously fostering growth that I have to feed and then release. And I can see it in real time. My husband, on the other hand, he has a great release system. Sometimes it's spontaneous. At least it happens at night, not during the day. He takes on growth, but also releases it very quickly when it needs to happen. I think he's an Rh negative, though, it's a conditioning process. Sometimes it's spontaneous and you can't hold it in. Sometimes it's spontaneous, but you can hold it in and then get to where you need to go. And that's a conditioning process. Viruses, yes, they do exist, and they are overgrowth. An overpopulation of a colony of units of cells that take over, like a tumor or cancer. So COVID-19 is an overgrowth of some kind of colony forming units of microbes. Okay? Parasites, protozoa, proteins, fungus, and bacteria. Viruses are the umbrella of the overgrowth of any one of those microbes. Vital information resource under siege. And it also wakes up other colonies to replicate extremely fast, which is why not everybody tests positive for COVID-19. They just deal with whatever growth they already have inside they didn't test for. For example, if you have influential people in your world working on roofing, going extremely fast, and then you're like, oh, wow, they're going so fast. And look out the window, they're going so fast, so I'm going to do dishes really fast. So I was inspired. I was influenced by watching the roofers go super fast. And I want to be just fast, just as them, right? Like them. That influential energy is still energy that could destroy if it gets out of control. If roofing and doing dishes was deadly, people could overdo everything, right? So that sounds a weird kind of analogy, but I was trying to think of something. Okay, like when we're watching people on Facebook and we're getting, we're reacting to what they're saying. We're being influenced. We're being, we're being triggered. When you trigger someone, it may not be the same outcome. It may be the same colony units of microbes. And so when my husband comes home and his influential energy triggers me, we may not have the same microbes that are growing or being overpopulated. Okay? And so people who have health issues but test negative for COVID-19, they were influenced by COVID, but it didn't come out as the actual influential virus. It triggered something inside. That's why you're seeing so many diseases, because the frequencies and the pathogens out there catalyze people's antigen, causing aggressive growth and diagnosable conditions, which is why you get died suddenly. Vital information resource under siege. Demons/virus equals overgrowth. Remember my first book a long time ago, Candida, Weaponized Fungus, Mainstreaming Mutancy? I was not too off the mark, but I had a lot of work to do, okay? It's not the system weaponizing anything. People make these microbes stronger during climate change. All you have to do is mix in with influential people, and now you get a virus, whatever it is, and those microbes, whatever they are, and you have no idea, because those microbes could then wake up the sleeper cells inside your body. That's why people get migraines. That's why they get cancer, disease, and chronic illness. And when you take remedies, I don't care what they are, wherever they are, you will then compound the issue by developing another colony of offspring that you're going to have to deal with and will grow rapidly. That's why it's so crazy when I put in a word that someone in a third world country that has a weird profile is selling some kind of remedy for, some kind of herbal remedy. They say, oh yeah, Dr. So-and-so from over here in Nigeria has this wonderful magical remedy for this, and this. And I'm looking at the profile, and it's a fake profile. I look at those spam type of messages that you see all over the place, that someone says, oh, here, take my this and take this and go, and let's go on Telegram and I can sell you everything under the fucking sun. They're causing more of those colony units. That's causing people to have all the issues. That's the thing, is you have to feed the demons, and you have to allow your body to shit. You have to allow your body to I was dripping last night. Actually, last night, while I was itching, my underpits were open, yeah, and they were dripping out smelly liquid. But if I didn't have my armpits open, like they are, that would turn into lymphoma. That would turn into a fast-moving cancer. That would turn into some kind of crazy-ass disease that would have to get cut out. But the fact that my armpits are open, the fact that I'm scratching, okay, I have this scratcher. that even this morning I woke up with hives on my back, but no big deal. All I do is just go, okay? Sometimes on my leg. Sometimes on my neck. Yesterday it was on the back of my neck, over around here. I had hives right up in here. Remember, even like last year, I had a big hump right back here. Not a big hump, but it was a hump that was swollen back here. And I couldn't move. Remember, I had stiff neck? Yeah, that was conditioning for the galvanization of the microbes and then also the release process. And I had to keep pulling out the crap. Remember, I'm a type O, so I will take on stuff and keep it. I have to manually actually pull out the microbes. Some people who are Rh negative may have the energy to release, and so they do spontaneous shitting. They do spontaneous bleeding. Sometimes it happens. And you have to replace that energy with all food. As soon as you start remedying it away, you're compounding the issue. And I can't tell people they have to feel pain. I can't tell people to eat all food because maybe they're allergic. They're going to have to play with that anaphylaxis if they are allergic to food very carefully. You need a doctor to oversee that process so they can train you how to cough, sneeze, and blow your nose if you don't know how to do it. And if you get dependent on sticking instruments in your body like a vacuum to suck out everything, you've then not conditioned your body to release. That's why I cough. That's why I sneeze. That's why I blow my nose. That's why I leverage the pressure down there to push out the shit. And so all you have to do is mix in with influential people, and now you get a virus, whatever it is, and it invades people's bodies, minds, and spirits, and then they can't release it because they weren't trained to. So people die suddenly from heart attacks and strokes when there is rapid growth. Remember, I had those headaches a couple of years ago, and I remember they were pounding on each side, and what did I do? I ate a steak. I ate steak. I ate brain food, steak, meat, milk, cheese. And they don't have a very good, strong release process. You see people spontaneously release blood from their bodies up in the air, in the skies, or explosive diarrhea, or spontaneous shitting, same thing. Yeah, growth happens that quick, and some people don't have survived the growth and reproduction. For example, here's that example of a baby. A baby growing so fast that it is the size of a baby in the last month of a third trimester and the first month of the first trimester. Rapid growth could cause a parent cell's or mother's body to be mangled aggressively, which is also why some women die during childbirth or high-risk pregnancy. That's why you don't want to encourage your girls to have babies now, not in this environment. They'll fall apart. Remember that movie Prometheus, when that alien baby was growing so fast it almost split that woman apart? It's like that. But imagine a trillion of colonies of microbes that split apart and destroy vital organs because the growth was that astronomical and the person stopped the body from releasing with medicine. Or they starved the body. They're afraid to eat the food because they don't want to go into inflammation. Yeah, you needed that food, but you have to do it very carefully because growth can happen that quickly. When you get inflammation from food, it's because it's trying to develop and activate the immune system to go after stuff. But if it grows so quickly, it's like taking two different blood types that are incompatible and putting them together. You get rapid antibody production, and it causes then, clogging up the arteries and capillaries, and people do drown in their own mucus if they don't know how to get that release process going. And so that's why the heart attacks and strokes and die suddenly. Overgrowth of the microbes in your body that you do not need, but some could be out of control. So overgrowth of the microbes in your body that you do not need, but some could be out of control. I never attacked my body with anything, and I don't. And overgrowth could be parasites, protozoa, proteins, fungus, and bacteria. And when you are, again, attacking it with medicine that's anti-this or anti-that, you developed another offspring. That's what all of these diet suddenly groups are doing to their audience, recommending them herbal remedies, recommending them all the different prescription drugs. They just compounded the problem. They just developed another genetic line of microbes that will then be out of control because it's not working for the body. You're developing offspring from that thing that is torturing you. I asked Google if Candida auris could cause hives or a related condition. It actually said yes. It is a yeast overgrowth, but there is nothing you can do unless you choose to starve yourself or medicate yourself to death. And it's only on the surface of my skin, not in my crevices. We're in a very different climate. And viruses, parasites, protozoa, are so prolific because of heat and accelerated particles waking up everything, causing rapid growth. that you have to feed it and then release it and deal with it when it's around. And that's the growth process. Last night, this morning, a lot of growth that I will release. It made me smarter. And so yesterday was insane. I was so amped up. And then the system gaslighting me. And so then I have a theory around my trolls. Some are actually organic. Others could be the system gaslighting me. Okay, so everything is possible. Again, you only see what the system wants you to see. You don't know what happens behind closed doors. You don't know who's commandeering other people's accounts. Okay, so that's why, you just have to be very careful who you listen to. I go on every day because I'm organic. What do you mean you're organic? This is some raw fucking truth from my world. Doesn't mean you can do what I'm doing. It just gives you an opportunity to see how you could apply certain things that I do to your situation. But again, not all situations are the same. So you have to figure out what is going to work for you and what doesn't. But I have no idea who is behind those that stalk me. I have no idea who's behind these groups that hate me. I have no idea. It could be the system radicalizing people, just like January 6th, the system radicalizing people who are against the government. You have no idea who's radicalizing who. So I just stay on my own, observe diplomatically. I don't mischaracterize anything. I say things properly, and I don't make any claims and say that you can do what I'm doing, because maybe you can't, but go see a doctor. And here's the thing. All of us have been trained to go see a stranger, whether it's our friends and family, because your friends and family are not, they don't know what you're going through. They don't know what the hell's going on in your world. Neither does really a doctor. They have a better idea, but even then they're practicing medicine. So if doctors are practicing medicine, they don't know everything. What makes you think your friends and family know better than a fucking doctor? I would take my chance on a doctor doesn't know everything versus my friends and family. So then you have to listen to yourself. And if you don't know anything, then you have to go listen to a stranger, whoever it is, and then you got to take your licks. The outcome is not always going to be favorable. See, Dr. Phil? Well, hold on. I don't rule out anything. Everything is possible in this world. What you see isn't always what you think you're getting. Even I know that now. But it was good. That was yesterday. That whole energy conversion, that the life was the life growing within. I will itch to release energy and then release demons and eat food. Everything will be well. See, Dr. Phil, there's a reason why I had to open up the door and give a path to life. We have been trained and conditioned to attack evolution with medicines as well as bullies. We've been trained to destroy evolution and change via homicide or infanticide or oncology. So I knew not to medicate myself to death during this time. Again, I can't tell people not to medicate themselves because that's their choice. And also, it might be required by their doctors because they're in such deficit they can't afford to go through an energy conversion that will take more than what they can handle. Because maybe they have food issues, food intolerances. And if they go through an energy conversion that they can't afford, then the thing is when you go through an energy conversion, you have to feed it. And if you're allergic to the food or you can't eat as much to balance out that energy conversion, then people do not survive. So that's the thing. That's why you don't want to be fucking skinny and hot and try to look like, a model. Okay, you really have to be bloated and release demons and not look like you're trying to get somebody on Facebook. You actually have to feel the pain and suffering. And I can't tell people to do that, but that's what I had to deal with. I'm O positive, so I can take on the pain and suffering and release it. But other people's are A's and B's, negatives and all that. So there are a lot of things working against them. They have to eat a lot. And yeah, infection's going to happen because that's what happens when you eat. You have to keep eating for the energy in your body that you have in your blood type as well as for the environment. And that's why your blood type is everything. You have to know what you're dealing with. You can't assume you can do what I'm doing because I'm a different blood type. I'm O positive. You could be, again, AB negative, AB positive. You could be O negative. And so the last 7 years, I've conditioned my body not to medicate symptoms, starve the overgrowth demons, but to release those demons, also known as overgrowth, the way I have in my book. Condition the body to cough, sneeze, and blow its nose, or lots of poop. And you can't starve your body. That's the issue with people as they starve their body from meat, milk, cheese, eggs, fruits, gluten, sugar, and salt. Everything that is FDA approved for consumption is on the table, never off the table. You can't get away with not feeling pain if you want to evolve and survive this. You try to be pain-free 100% and all that, then you go see a doctor and they can give you the FDA-approved protocols to give you pain-free until they can't treat you anymore, and then it's hospice. That's your choices. I didn't do it, but that's your choices. There's the method to my madness. I just didn't even know it. Okay? And so it took me 7 years to figure that out. Thanks to you, I suffered through it, but I did it. And that was the whole point of Dr. Phil. They brought me in under interesting pretenses, not so much, I mean, what they don't say, you're going to go up against some dude that's going to really just give you a run for your money. Okay. And so that's fine, though. It needed to happen. All right. Growth management is not destroying life, but releasing it. When people can't manage growth, they end up starving themselves or attacking themselves. And then they say it's somebody else's fault. Viruses or anything that's out of control attacking the relative equilibrium of the body. And they could be parasitic protozoa, proteins, fungus, or bacteria. Everything is parasitic when it's not contributing to the overall process and is taking more away than it is contributing. And so when you think about people out there, you know, the system is trying to get rid of the useless eaters. That's like in your body. There's useless eaters in your body that are causing destruction and rampant reproduction. And so the body has to release that. But you got to arm it and give it the food and the arsenal and the rest and the relaxation and the release and the food and all that. And the system is doing the same thing. They're giving you everything you could possibly want until you remedy yourself or supernova because you don't know boundaries or balance. I never take anti-anything remedies because the body comes back harder at you and destroys you for trying to destroy it. So why is C. auris can be deadly? C. auris or Candida auris can cause bloodstream infection and even death, particularly in hospital and nursing homes, patients with serious medical problems. More than 1 in 3 patients with invasive C. auris infection, for example, an infection that affects the blood, heart, and pain, or heart and brain, die. It's often resistant to medicine. Of course it is. It's so fast moving that when you take medicine, that medicine will just replicate and convert to whatever is the most influential. That's why when you give transplants to people who have very influential microbes in the body, over time, those little transplants or donations will be converted to whatever the main programming that's most influential in the body. You have to release the influential programming. If you don't, then eventually it'll take over. Okay? So, anyway, so yeah, so I'm going to do a real hard transition. So there's that video that I posted of that mother that wants to sue the school district for not supporting her son's identification to be a cat. Okay, so remember, in my book, I said that all different sexual orientations or identification, whatever you want to call it, okay, all different types of identifications come from so many different microbes in the body fighting for space and influence. And if someone is identifying as a cat, you can only imagine what kind of microbes that have certain feline characteristics causing that person to then identify with that situation. Because it's not only just nature, because you wouldn't know what a cat is unless you saw something out there, like on TV or in books or even in your house or in your neighborhood. And sometimes, even if you don't know what you're identifying with, but you have a connection to it, there's something within that's very influential connecting to that organism out there that is of like minds. That's what the whole attraction, right? People are attracted to like minds. Opposites attract, but also something that has a relative similarity and alignment in thought processes, body, mind, and spirit. So when you think about what people when they have sexual orientation, there's certain things that are in alignment that causes that attraction. And it doesn't matter if it's male or female or female male, whatever. It's the hormones, it's all the positive, negative, the binary driven arguments. But also there are creatures out there that some humans are attracted to. That's some of them. Well, I'm not saying that kid who's identified as a cat is attracted to cats, but that would be probably one aspect of it. I mean, how else would you explain it? Now, people say it's a mental illness. But I guess, I don't know. I mean, remember they said LGBT is a mental illness, and it was in the DSM, and they took it out. And so is it really a mental illness, or is it another genetic species of a because it's all natural. If they feel something, they feel something. If they identify something, they identify something. It's different, yes. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it makes me giggle because I can only imagine when we've been in such a homogenized society with a very specific, social construct, and then someone comes in and says, hey, I'm a cat, and I'm licking my paws, or that guy that dressed up as a collie, a Shetland or a collie, and he's trying to be like a dog. He really can't, but he's in a costume of a dog, and he's a furry type of thing. It's different, yes. It's different. As long as they're not hurting anybody, as long as they're not hurting anyone, who cares? But it still makes me giggle because, wow, it's so out of the realm of what I think is normal. But again, we can't be the one to dictate what is normal. Just because it's a minority doesn't mean it's not normal. It's just another species. It's another offshoot. Okay? And so, with the whole J world and sexual orientation, remember I said in the Dr. Phil show that got me a lot of backlash. I'm like, sex, or what is it, babies come from man and women. But I was still correct because even men that are men want to be a woman and transgender, they're still identifying with one or the other. So it really doesn't really matter you say man or woman, just, how you want to characterize that and who is taking on those characterizations. But it's still just, it's what was I saying? I don't know. As long as it's not hurting anybody, who cares? All right. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that one. So if you want your kids to learn stuff and you don't want them to be exposed to so much diversity that might be causing a distraction, then homeschool. Okay. But we're going to be finding in this new world that there's going to be a lot of different people with certain identifications, sexual orientations. As long as there's consent and it's legal, not hurting anyone, who cares? But it is different. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get shocked too. And sometimes it's hard to shock me, but I still get shocked. But you see what that mother she's dealing with. If her son acts a certain way, and she loves her son, yeah, that's she's going to be serious about it. Imagine having a kid that really has that identification, and you love your kid. You want that kid to be supported. That's difficult. That's some crazy shit. So diversity is beautiful, okay, but I don't know where a time and place for, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Just, not everything is a mental, that's what I was saying about that. I was trying to figure out what I was leading up to. But yes, not everything is a mental illness. So just because it was in the DSM a long time ago taken out, and then someone has something that you think would be in the DSM, like identifying as a cat. Well, is that really a mental illness, or is that the microbes that are natural in our body are speaking to him and identifying with something out there, and it's taking on the characteristics? Just be open to understanding biology. It's a trip. Not everything is what it seems. But again, I even get a little bit shocked. But we're going to have some interesting stuff in the future. So just be tolerant. But still, giggle if you need to, because you got to be, because it's funny. I mean, when I see people on Facebook posting stuff of certain people that are of a certain GNDR, and they're dressing up like another one, and they're making fun, and I get it. It's so different. It's so out of the realm of what we think is normal. It's still shocking to see, but that's what a person feels like. And you can't take that away from them. That's what they feel like. That's what they, just like I feel the way I feel about longevity. Someone else be like, oh my God, you're stupid. Rebuke you in the name of Jesus. All right. So I understand what it's like to be a minority. And even though it's not like dressing up as a furry or identifying as a cat or, trying to grow a mustache or anything, longevity, immortality, and pulling out the crap is very foreign to some other people. So I even understand from this point of view what those who are in a minority are dealing with. Okay, so we got to give room for people to just do what they got to do, as long as they're not breaking the laws or hurting anyone else. Give room for the diversity. Okay, but if your kids are surrounded by people with so much diversity that are disrupting the class, then maybe it's time to homeschool. Because how's your kid going to get an education when you have somebody licking their paws in the class? All right. So yesterday I was amped up, of course, but I was also going through the last 50 years of my life, and I have my own accomplishments. Sometimes I don't give myself enough credit because I always have to compare myself to somebody else of what success is, what this is, what that is. But I have so many successes, and that's probably doesn't even scratch the surface. But where I live, people are like, "Oh, you live in the ghetto." I've had trolls, figure out where I live, and they're like, "Oh, you live in the ghetto. How are you so proud of your neighborhood and all this other shit?" And I'm just like, what? You think I should live like in Beverly Hills with a 10,000 square foot house, living around, waspy type of people next to a Starbucks and, Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom, shopping for the latest clothes, wearing the latest labels and all that? No, I have a gorgeous view of Ohio. I mean, I know, so I'm not in the woods. I don't need to be in the woods, because when you think about all the storms and the tornadoes and the floods and all of that, I'd rather be something like this where I can see the storms and see everything, see my kingdom of sorts. And it's a nice, beautiful panoramic view of Ohio. So I am in a quiet, quaint, historical rural city, rich with diversity and culture. Black, white, Hispanic, and Asian living together harmoniously, and hearing the train off in the distance is such a comforting sound. So those that are living in the coast or Florida or California, and you have, $500,000 because you just made money off your house in some suburban sprawl out there, and you're like, okay, well, I don't want to live in California. I don't want to live in Florida. I don't want to live on the East Coast. So where in the Midwest would I want to live? Well, I mean, Canton, Ohio is not a bad place. Yes, it has its crime. We have bodies being pulled out of dumpsters every so often, and those are under investigation. But I don't go and mix. I don't go after midnight. I don't mix in with riffraff. I don't go to the bars. I don't walk the streets after dark. I don't go to parties all the time. Okay? I'm in a nice little neighborhood that is up and coming. They are retrofitting the roads and widening the roads and knocking down houses that are vacant and all that. We're acquiring the property next door so my husband can go and landscape that if he wants to. Okay, so, and I live, next to Black, white, Hispanic, and Asian living together harmoniously. And hearing the train off in the distance is such a nice, comforting sound. And it really is inexpensive to live here. I pay $536 in my mortgage a month. I like inexpensive. It's humble and manageable. And I'm not afraid that I can't keep up with the pace of living here. It's quite doable. No major pressures. I can think. I can do things in peace. People do leave you alone for the most part. Great neighbors. Great government. A mostly hands-off police force over here, unless you're a criminal. Occasionally we'll see a few, unmarked cars go and arrest someone, in my neighborhood. Okay. But they weren't loud about it. They weren't doing it. They were very silent. My husband saw it through the Ring doorbell. He goes outside and sees them picking up somebody, And it's just very silent. It was very nice. Okay, I like that I can think out here. Space to think is so important. The sky is beautiful. Panoramic views of the sky are so important. It's also very simple living. I like simple living. I can make my life as difficult or as simple as I want. Freedom to move around, even when you're rooted in one place, is very important. The ability to expand and contract so you don't get suffocated is so important. So yeah, you could have a very cheap or inexpensive mortgage, inexpensive insurance, inexpensive utilities, and you're still fully covered and you're still taking care of business, and you can have a nice boat and a nice, this and that, but in a nice car, but that if times get tough, that you can trade in your car, trade in your boat, and then you would save yourself so much money, and you're not trying to keep up, a 3,000 square foot house and so much property and so much of this and so much of that, and a bunch, so you want to be able to expand when you want and have the creature comforts. And then when times get tough, you're able to cut the fat without it actually cutting into the principle. It wouldn't really change your life that much. Okay, you want to have that kind of room. You don't want to be so running close to the seam that any kind of change would send you off into a tailspin. You want to be able to absorb the change without it causing so much grief and suffering. And so the ability to expand and contract so you don't get suffocated is so important, and I made it. That's why if you live in California, you're keeping up with all the California lifestyle. When you have a bunch of kids, you have to now make sure all the kids are fed and dealing with stuff, and that's a lot to deal with. Okay? When you start lessening the amount of things you have to take care of and keep up with, then you can spend time on yourself taking care of business. But when you have to take care of everybody in the world, and plus keep up with the Joneses, people run that hamster wheel into the ground and they don't survive their own lifestyle. So I made it. When you've made it, there's nothing else to prove. Now it's time to relax. So 50 years old has its privileges. My accomplishments are not like everybody else's, and they also are. I'm not special. So I have a non-traditional education. I've educated myself. I've put myself through college. I have a bunch of student loans. Okay? I've traveled everywhere, right? So I still traveled to Europe. I traveled to Asia. Non-traditional education. Pissed off the world. Sat in Hollywood for 1 second for my 15 minutes of fame. Traveled all over the United States. And I also lived in a tropical island called Hawaii for about 6 months. Lived so many fantastic lives, not always fantastic. Had one pet that I owned myself for the most part, that was Sugar. I have been married for over 12 years to an excellent gentleman, 13 years, who was just as smart as I am. Wrote 3 books. They weren't bestsellers, but they made a dent in the world that I lived in at the time. Worked in so many different companies and industries and passed state tests for government licenses. Traveled across the country by myself at least a few times. Developed a protocol that kept me alive, to keep me alive during this crazy time that we live in. And so I know I dodged many different cancer and diseases that were set to trigger during this pandemic. Oh yeah, if I hadn't pulled out the crap in July 2022, I would have been dead, because that demon was becoming astronomical in me. It was growing so fast, it would have turned into a cancer. So when that crap is stuck in your body like Tootsie Rolls, and it has programming that causes rapid growth like cancer, disease, and chronic illness, you start getting bigger and bigger and bigger from that crap. And then there'll be weird growths in different places that some people get tumors from. They get cancer from. And that's why all cancer, disease, chronic illness, and autoimmune disorders are rooted in your gut, but you can't force your gut and your body to release. It has to be done in a progressive, transitional way that takes time. It's not sudden. If you do anything that's sudden, that's like having a baby grow so fast and split the mother apart. Okay? You don't want things to grow so fast. You don't want to just force your body to release stuff. That's what people do when they do all those different detoxes, or they take those laxatives. They force their body to release stuff. At least with the salt water and the J juice, it activates your immune system, and then when it's too much, it cures things. So that's why people got constipated on the J juice. So on the pink salt, it took a little longer time for the constipation and the cures. But on the white salt, it was so aggressive because it's white salt. There weren't any minerals in it except for this salt. They didn't have all the pink minerals in it. And so people were getting cured faster, and they were getting constipated again. They're like, God damn it, Jillian. But I wanted to see. Now I see from both white salt and the pink salt, white salt is very, 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 very aggressive, extremely strong. And it has a very fast curative, but then you don't want to be cured. Because then you'll be like a statue that is deteriorating in the elements. Because there's no give. Okay? And so I don't smoke, drink, or do drugs. I'm very clear-headed. I have improved my speaking and writing skills, though everything is relative. Some would disagree given all the typos. I don't need much to survive. I'm not snooty or stuck up, but I also don't make it easy for strangers to get access to me. I'm not naive. I want the best for everyone. I don't vote. I won't declare war on anyone. It's not my job to make decisions for you, especially not my fellow countrymen. You make your own choices. Some people say, oh, you should vote. Why? Because that's your duty. That's your citizen. That's your duty in America. What? To make a decision for somebody else? When I voted, what I was implying is that this person is going to represent not only me, but even those that are opposite me. Who am I to say that that guy, whether it's Trump or Biden or Obama or anyone else, is the person to represent not only me, but then somebody else? Who am I to say that? I represent me. The choices that I make represent me. The government that's in place, regardless if it's Democrat, Republican, or Biden, or Trump, or whoever, they represent the government that I will assimilate to at the time, and when it changes, I'll assimilate to that. But it's not my job to make a decision or a choice or to say that this person should represent you. That's like forced converting people. That's the religious world. When they're in your face telling you to please, convert to this religion because you'll be saved if you do. Ooh, please vote for Trump because we'll be saved if we do. Please vote for Biden or Obama because we'll be saved if we do. Okay, you can't guarantee that. And if you could, who are you to try to save me? Okay, so I won't declare war on anyone. It's not my job to make decisions for you, especially not my fellow countrymen. You make your own choices. I'm a peaceful person. I have ideas about the world and I make my observations. I change the world by changing myself. I have boundaries. I know my limitations. Okay, so I'm excited for the future. It might be a little bit hellish, but I'm excited for the changes. I do like challenges, and I'm putting together puzzles. And so others may have a more exciting lives, but everything is relative. And I so appreciate what I have accomplished. And the best thing of all, I discovered how to beat the medical and the holistic system for me. Not only have I saved myself and my hubby's money, but also my own ass. That's the thing I'm most proud of. I saved my own ass. I may not be able to stop nuclear war. Okay, so if China decides to lob a bomb and it hits us in the middle of Ohio, then I'm done. Okay, but if not, then, I have an amazing immune system and I can tame those microbes. I can tame those microbial grenades people throw at me all the time in public. That's all I can ask for is my best health. And so April 8th, okay, so I looked up April 8th. Because we know we had, the Super Bowl and all that, and that was the highest viewed show ever. And I don't know what, maybe because it's Taylor Swift, maybe because it was the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe because of the conspiracy community. All those three put together, we all contributed to the ritual of the Super Bowl. That's great. April 8th, 2024. The spiritual meaning of solar eclipse varies across different cultures and belief systems. In some ancient cultures, such as the Mayans and the Egyptians, solar eclipses were seen as powerful omens that signaled a time of great change and transformation. And so when you add it all together, it equals 20. What is the life path 20? Okay, path of resurrection, the way of rebirth, final decision, finding God within, self-analysis and criticism, transformation, fire, inner reflection. This path unites kingdom, the material plane, with splendor on a road of resurrection. Yep, extremists are attracted to the Dr. Phil Johnson. Jesus Christ. All right, I gotta put that away. But anyways, that was added by mistake. But yeah, see how automatic I can be? So yeah, the material plane with splendor on a road of resurrection. Okay? And ignore that last sentence. That should have been deleted, but that's okay. Okay. So whatever. So I'm not mad at Dr. Phil. His show existed to put a light and a mirror onto our population. And so I already said that, that we had to see it. We had to watch people suffer and dying suddenly, to figure out what they're dying suddenly of and why. And then why then I had to evolve the J juice world to the J world. And here we are. But, and so we were watching many people suffer and dying because either they couldn't get out of their own way or they had to entrust their family to a stranger or a professional or a lay person because they made choices. They knew they did not have all the information for or even were equipped to deal with. Why did you have a child? Because everyone else is doing it. So why not you? Is that really an educated choice? Or are you just blindly following somebody else? People blindly follow in traditions without really considering the ramifications of their choices. And so the whole Dr. Phil show was showing people how they blindly follow people because they were told to. Zombies make choices based upon what their parents and friends and family do. Okay, and when you have a zombie population making choices because everyone else is doing it, that's breeding ignorance. And so Dr. Phil was showing how the system breeds ignorance and causing people and forcing people to try to do something different. And when the things that they do may not be as different, but in a different way, they make fun of you. When you breed ignorance, you get chaos and you get predators, and you also get die suddenly. And so when I was dealing with those two people gaslighting me reacting to strangers is no different than someone taking advice from strangers on Facebook, even their friends and family, even from professionals. All professionals, because they are strangers too. And someone told you to trust them. But that's no different trolling strangers out there. Why troll strangers? Who's left to trust? If you can't trust yourself, someone else will be the one to control your life and your death. Now watch people on Facebook take advice from strangers on how to deal with health situations, even for their own children. That's the kicker. You know, I had a major epiphany and frequencies changed and I have hives. And so, yeah, the system will either destroy you or become the strength to give you the maturity and the wisdom. And so even Dr. Phil was not the enemy. He's just a mirror. And so I said, okay, everyone's a stranger and all that stuff. Freedom, I'm not reacting anymore to trolls because it could be the freaking system gaslighting me, trying to get me to perform yet again. I'm done with that. So, yeah. So Dr. Phil is not an issue. He was just a mirror on because we all were selling the same thing on the Dr. Phil show. The people across from me were selling that, selling their version of what you should do for cancer disease and chronic illness and mischaracterizing symptoms and whatever. I was doing the same thing, but I had something else, which was people could potentially be 300 years old. Didn't mean that what I was doing and what they were doing were going to give that path to it, but it was still a thought process that needed to be explored. And so, no, he was not the enemy. He just shone a light on something that needed to be discussed. Okay? And so I'm not going to make any more assumptions about anyone and who people are or where they came from. It's just block and delete. If I don't know something, I will go see a professional. And then I can't bitch about the outcome. I really can't take advice from anyone on Facebook. Because that's the thing. If doctors are practicing medicine yet again and they don't always get it right, you really think your friends and family, a stranger on Facebook, are going to get it right for you? You get it right for you, or you get to the nearest potential outcome that you expect from a professional. But again, the professionals are dealing with a different environment. That's why they're so perplexed on why there's so much turbo cancers. People want to blame the V's, fine, but then it's also their lifestyle and all the different remedies are taking, compounding the issue. So right now, everyone's flying blind. Okay, everyone. That's why I posted that picture of me going, yeah, good luck, because everyone's flying blind. Everyone is. Because we're in a different environment and people are trying to do traditions trying to use their traditions from the old world in a non-traditional new world. And so time aging is measured on deterioration and even how we perceive what deterioration is, entropy, thermodynamics. When people cheat with plastic surgery, Botox, and even fecal transplants, you will never know what they were fighting until the body quits on them, or they are obviously deteriorating as the immune system finally activated, developing a bloated-like appearance that never leaves, which is why some women who have undergone so much work look a little monstrous later on. Even some men look to Hollywood. My world comes up on reversing the aging process organically with all food and painful release. I do not want to deceive anyone into buying into a false social construct of youth and beauty. You do live in the matrix, that much I know. I escaped the matrix. Reversing the aging process is painful because releasing those microbes causing your air, food, and water and environmental tolerances are like an exorcism. Yeah, it's going to fucking hurt, but when you have pain, you have to feed it. Okay, so when you have pain in your head, not only to feed it, but you have to make sure you shit. Make sure you don't stop the body from releasing. Whenever you go to work, you expect to get paid, right? When your body's working for you, you have to feed it. What people do is they don't pay their body when it's going to work for them. They go and try to remedy it away, and it compounds the issue, makes it worse. So when you're in pain, that's your body working for you. You better feed it and allow it to release when it needs to. It's like an exorcism. Yeah, it's painful. As you know, people are not conditioned to suffer to save themselves. They condition themselves to suffer and pass away. Suffering to pass away is the matrix. Suffering and then turning to pleasure and paradise and then pass away is the matrix. Most of society is stuck in the matrix. They were never conditioned to suffer and live. They were conditioned to suffer and die and take everyone down with them, selling people lifestyles and belief systems, selling them youth and beauty in a bottle or operations or starvation diet. Yeah, that's what people are up against. That's why I've barely made a dent in society. You don't want to wake up everyone all at once because it would be chaos. That's why I'm glad I have such a small following. The future of humanity does depend upon a very small amount of people who can break out the matrix. And it must be done very carefully. Because even Africa will go through their own hell at some point, just like the Northern European countries. Cancer, disease, chronic illness, 5 minutes to midnight, hot one day, fighting disease and aging the next day, the Great Reset. We had pleasure in paradise in the 80s, and now 5 minutes to midnight. The spell will be broken, everything will be as it was before. And we'll have a new society once the useless eaters leave. And that's the thing with me, my body. The useless leaders leave the body all the time because growth is exponential with me. I'm O positive. So I constantly have to release the useless eaters out of my body through this whole climate change. And it's going to be ongoing for who knows how long. I said until 2030, but it could be longer than that. But I figure till 2030 is a good round number to say, hey, that's what we'll deal with. But you better be surviving between now and 2030. You got to eat all food. You can't be stingy with food when it comes to this energy conversion because your body needs to be fed during energy conversion. You develop more reproduction, more offspring from putting probiotic and antibiotic together. You're developing more mouths to feed that will then eventually eat the parent, which is you. And that's what's going on with those in the diet suddenly groups, is there are so much more offspring from all the remedies and the therapies causing so much fertility, whether it's pregnancy or new diseases. The rapid growth is causing the body to be mangled and then game over. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say for that. Yeah, a major frequency shift. So I'm going to erase some of this stuff because I'm not going to talk about that. I mean, I already did talk about it. I just don't need to go through the stuff. But you know how I feel now about everything. Well, you already know. And happy Valentine's Day. Whatever. All right. Good luck.